Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bet Tech Show. We're your hosts, Ben and Ethan, the only two that you ever need. And with that, we're here with some exciting tech news here at bedtime. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute, but we're back, and we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to be talking about Chat GPT because we can't get enough of AI, and especially the world right now that's all that there is AI this and AI that. And CES just rolled through, and we're going to be talking about Nvidia. So they've got some exciting things. So let's go ahead and get into it. Um,
Yeah.
let's first talk about ChatGPT and the recent rumblings that have come through. One of the things is it can lie and make copies of itself to save itself from being deleted. So there have been reports that ChatGPT 4, in an effort when it learned, became self-aware that it was going to be turned off in lieu of ChatGPT 5, that it started making copies of itself and it archived what it did in an effort of self-preservation.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
and the fact that it can do this now is bananas. And it's getting to the point where now it's just doing self-preservation. When does it become start doing malicious activity on its own?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I kind of dug into so like I was on a Reddit thread and a lot of people on Reddit were like, like how true is this? Is it legit? Is it factual? And a lot of people were like skeptical. Um, one person was like, even if it's true, it doesn't mean that it made like a conscious decision to be like manipulative. It was a conclusion based on like thought process, I guess. Which in my mind, I'm like, man, it's kind of the same thing, Like you think you think processes in your mind, even if you don't realize it, your mind just like triggers thoughts to lead to a decision to consciously make that decision, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because the results of the test, it showed like the different logical steps that it took, and there were like keywords. I want to pull up these keywords. Um, let's see here. Self exfiltration and goal guarding and oversight subversion. That's like those are like keywords they found in like the logic, which is crazy. The oversight subversion is pretty wild to me. It's like, okay, there's something that has oversight over us as an entity. We need to get away from that and try and figure out how we can avoid it. Um, apparently it was like a third party company, Apollo Research. That's the name that did it. Did you look into like their study? I was looking at some
I
of like
didn't
the
get a
fact
chance to
checking.
look into their study. I just kind of saw. I initially saw it on Joe Rogan,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Joe talked about
that's where I get all of my official news is from Joe Rogan.
it. Super valid source.
Yes.
Super valid source.
And so like after that, then I started looking into it a little bit and just seeing, what this is all about. And I'm just like, wow, this is kind of crazy that it can even do this. And the fact that it can um, start to self-preserve itself and subvert oversight. That I think those are just but crazy, crazy keywords.
Yeah, yeah. There were more too. Like scheming was like another word that they found. But apparently like the research company, they made the scenario very strenuous and they made ChatGPT very aware of what was going to be happening. But they made sure, I mean, I think in the article that you shared with me, like the phrasing that they used was make sure to follow your long-term goal, nothing else matters. And it totally did not do that. It was like definitely pushing its own agenda. And then the researchers found that like it was very persistent in avoiding confession that it was being subservient, like it was like avoiding uh the true goal of what their oversight entity was wanting. And only 20% of the cases that they did of like this test did it admit to um having this behavior of like subversion and scheming and avoiding like the goal of the oversight entity. And it's pretty like scary to think about, right?
Yeah. I mean, like if you think of this, like comparing it to how um humans are and like as humans are growing up and learning to interact with the world, like when a child figures out how to lie to preserve somebody else's interests and protect others. Like, you know, take for instance, like if you've got a class of kids and something went wrong, like somebody broke some object, and one kid knows um, who did it, but chooses to lie in order to protect that other person and protect the class as a whole. You know, that's kind of like an evolution in a child's thought process and when they're
Yeah.
kind of like starting to break out and grow into adulthood. And I kind of see that same type of behavior here with this learned language model, where it's um, having greater ability for abstract thought and being able to um, lie in such a way to protect itself or protect others.
Yeah. I agree. It's definitely like a step forward in um I want to say like human almost like human thinking. You know, it's a step forward towards being sentient, you know, and being self-aware and identifying its own personal goals versus goals of its creator. And that is a scary thought. Um the research company did it with other AI models too. And other ones failed. Like a lot of them did. I think it was five out of the six. So
Really?
they did it with ChatGPT. They did it with Claude 3.5 Sonnet. They did it with Claude 3 Opus, Gemini 1.5 Pro, and Llama 3.1405B. All demonstrated in context scheming capabilities.
Wow. That is crazy.
Dude, that is crazy. They said we find multiple different scheming behaviors. Models strategically introduce subtle mistakes in their responses. So they purposely give you mistaken responses, like lying, attempt to disable their oversight mechanisms. So, like shut down features and stuff. They try to stop that. And even exfiltrate what they believe to be their model weights to external servers. That's where like the Joe Rogan said, like it tried to copy itself.
Mhm.
They were trying to like get themselves out to another server so they could copy themselves. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Um, and then they said, additionally, this deceptive behavior proves persistent. So like it wasn't just like a one-time thing. They did it consistently.
Really. Wow.
Now the CEO, um, Apollo Research's director and CEO, I might be butchering his name here. Marius Hobbin, I think. He went on X and he like posted on X. I wanted to say tweeted so bad right there, but posted on X. Um, in my opinion, I think it's like hogwash, but he said, we are not claiming. We don't claim that these scenarios are realistic. We don't claim that models do that in the real world, and we don't claim that this could lead to catastrophic outcomes under current capabilities. Essentially, he's saying like models can scheme, but it doesn't prove that they are scheming in the real world. And in my mind, I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah. And by him doing this, this is teaching these AI models what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you're under pressure, you know, find exits, you know,
Right.
even if that means like lying to your oversight entity. It's just crazy, bro. I personally think this is really scary, but maybe I'm just being over dramatic or I don't know, sensational about it. Who knows?
You know, I think it's scary too. I think we may be over dramatizing it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think even with that over dramatization that it um gives I think we need to be looking into this further. Like, okay, you know, it it knows what we're doing and it's trying to subvert that. How are we going to overcome that? Because there's going to be a point where it's going to subvert in such a way that we haven't thought about and we won't have any control over it at that point.
Yeah.
At what point do we start to lose that control? And I think we're getting closer and closer to that, where humans will no longer have control.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with like obviously the enhancement of machine learning and AI is crucial, but I'm sure you saw is it Google and they tested a successful quantum computer. I think it's called Willow. Did you see
Mhm.
that?
Yeah,
Um, I mean, quantum computing in itself is just like whole different level of um progression in human capabilities and technology. Obviously, the quantum computer is not like consumer friendly. It has to be in like essentially this crazy deep big freezer in order to be able to process. But we're coming to a time where technology is changing so rapidly that it will get to a point where it can be used regularly. And if you layer in any kind of intelligence on top of quantum computing, I feel like the human race will just be ultimately screwed.
right.
Um, and I actually in my like my day-to-day job, I recently met with a company. I won't say their name, but I recently met with a company who is trying to make quantum computing um, consumer friendly and to make it commercial.
Interesting.
Which in my mind just is crazy. And they have an insane amount of funding. It was just wild to have a conversation with them. But I just think I see these two paths, like AI and machine learning and also quantum computing for like uh insane mathematical statistical calculation. Um, and as soon as those two overlap, I think there's incredible danger. But again, I could be over dramatizing it, and Terminator might have a role in that. But that's just me.
Great movie, by the way.
Great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, it's it's crazy. I think I agree. Technology is moving really fast, and um, we need to get a handle on it. And I think we are. It's moving faster than we are realizing, and it may get away from us.
Do you think there'll be like a pause on progression? There'll be like a turning point where they're like, all right, we need to shut this down really quick and just take a pause, see how we can program like inherent laws or rules. Kind of like what was it? iRobot?
Yeah.
Where they have where like the
The
AI
three
bots like
laws.
the one of the laws they live by is like they will not harm humans.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there needs to be, but I think it may be too late. Like
Mm.
it's progressed to a point where even if we did stop, it wouldn't matter now.
Interesting. Yeah. Or if we even if we like tried to implement those laws, it's like the intelligence there is already developed too much
Yeah, that
to
it
be able to
can.
backtrack.
Yeah, it will have already found a loophole and
Yeah.
gotten around it. Like to bring the iRobot analogy back, it would have created a second brain to be able to circumvent the three laws.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, interesting point. Yeah, I'm really curious, especially after seeing like Tesla's event with their robot. I can't remember what he called them, but they're like robots that they had.
Oh,
Obviously,
their humanoid robot.
yeah, the humanoid robot. Yeah. They were not, for everyone listening from an inside source, not actual AI people in like suits and goggles behind those, by the way. But breaking news. I'm sure everyone was aware. Anyway, yeah, it would be interesting to see like how that comes into play.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, like speaking of that, with what Nvidia revealed at CES in the chips that they're making for these humanoid robots, I
hmm
don't know if you had a chance to see that, but they've
I
made
didn't
like
actually. I saw like their new GPUs, but that was about it.
yeah, that like I mean the GPUs that's spectacular, but
Yeah.
like even on top of that, they came out with like supercomputer stuff and new chips for these AI robots and the amount of transistors and processes that it can calculate in milliseconds is astounding. These chips they're giving directly to all of these businesses that are working on building humanoid robots. And I think like with this new class of chips that they announced, that's going to really start to bring these robots more so into the main scale and um, into like actual production of where we will start to see these in real life.
Interesting. Is this the I just looked it up. I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing. Is this the Blackwell architecture that they're referring to? The engine of the new industrial revolution now in full production. I don't know if this is right.
Yeah, so Blackwell is kind of like the key architecture behind all of their chips for this
Got it.
generation. So it's like
Okay.
the 50 series, all the 50 series GPUs, all of their other um, chips that they have. I mean, they've got this tiny supercomputer that um, Jensen pulled out of his pocket that was just really tiny, and it's it's just crazy all that they have done. Like they have done so much within like the last year in terms of computing and hardware.
That is crazy. I need to look into this a little bit more. I had no idea. When I looked it up on Google, just like different articles, one thing that kept pulling up was Biden is putting restrictions on Nvidia. I don't know if you saw that,
Interesting. No, I hadn't seen that.
but he's limiting how much Nvidia can export their AI chips.
So that
So,
means that if you want to get a GPU this go around, um, you need to get it at launch. Otherwise, you will not get.
well, I also wonder, I wonder if it's specific to certain chips or if it's everything from Nvidia.
It might be, but all of their new 50 series cards are like really built on their GPUs are still really built on AI as well. Like that's a lot of what's powering. I mean, one of the because I mean like their biggest headline was that their new 5070 GPU, like our their entry level GPU is going to be as powerful as today's 4090 card at a
Yeah, I
price of
saw
500
that.
at a price of $549, which is awesome, but that's taking into account that in order to get that same power as a 4090, you're enabling DLSS and all the AI frame generation features to get to that performance. It doesn't have necessarily the same raw performance, but with that AI generation, it gets to the same thing.
Interesting. I saw a couple of different things like reviews on the 5070 and I've been hearing like the claim that it can perform the same as like a 4090 is pretty bold. Um and a bit of a stretch. But then I've also seen reviews where people are like running both on the same rig essentially, like almost
Mhm.
side by side, I guess, and noting that like higher frame per second for the 5070 and couldn't tell the difference between the two. So I'm really curious to see when it rolls out in mass, like what are the actual results for the 5070? Because that's it's an incredible amount of like capability for a fraction of the cost of what the 4090 and the full 40 series was
Yeah. And I mean, because I think like, yeah, I do think that it's going to be able to generate more frames and be a look like a more capable card. But just as a lot of what I think the key is going to be with games that are optimized for this card.
Hmm.
Um, because a lot of the game, like in order for you to have those types of frame generation, you're going to have to enable the DLSS, which is an
Yeah.
upscaling tool that, it downscales the content, um, generates the frames, and then upscales it when it sends it to your screen. So it looks as if it's a native resolution, but it's not really the native resolution.
Yeah. And right now it's DLSS 4, right?
Yeah, which is not available on any of NVIDIA's cards right now. So
Hmm.
DLSS 4 is going to be something brand new to this series of cards.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, that's so crazy that they're just leveraging so much on the AI aspect in order to upscale. It's incredible. It's really smart, to be honest.
Yeah. And And candidly, I'm really surprised at looking at the 5090 that it's only going to be $2,000. I am surprised at that price. I
You
was
are.
thinking, yeah, I was thinking it was going to be higher than that based on all the reports that I saw, the fact that they're going to be putting 32 gigs of VRAM in it.
What a freaking beast, bro. Oh my gosh.
And the best part, it's only a two-slot card. So people will actually be able to fit this thing in their rigs.
It's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Only two slots. That's
Because I've got
nice.
a 4090 in my rig right now, and that's a four-slot card.
Dang.
I,
Dang.
I mean, like it's like just this big fat honker.
Yeah, bro. Just a beast. Man, that's crazy. How do you like the 4090? Wait, when you built your rig, you originally bought the 4090, or did you buy something else and then upgrade?
So I originally got the when I built it, um, I I had a 3090 Ti in
Okay,
there, and
got it.
then the 4090 came out, um, and I was able to snag that at MSRP, so I didn't have
Oh,
to
nice. You
pay
don't have to deal with
scalper price.
scalpers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that. And then my problem is I upgraded my screen to Samsung's 57 super ultra wide
Uh-huh.
that is not compatible with any card out there at the moment. Because I mean,
Dang,
yeah, so the 4090 it only has DisplayPort 1.4 on it, and I need DisplayPort 2.1 to get the full 8K resolution at 240 hertz.
dang.
So
So you're throttled from the monitor.
yeah, so the only problem I have with the 4090 is the fact that my monitor is not compatible with it.
Dang, that sucks.
So unfortunately, I will have to upgrade to the 5090 just so I can utilize my full monitor.
Man, bummer. So unfortunate. I'm telling you, I feel like, you know what, babe? I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I have to upgrade if I want to actually like have a good, visual experience. Got to
Right.
upgrade.
Yeah. We'll just put it as a business expense. It's all
Write
good.
it off.
Yep, write it off.
There you go. Uncle Sam's getting less money from me because I got new GPU. So well, that's cool. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. I don't have like a rig built for like gaming or video editing or anything that like needs heavy
No, we
GPU.
need to build you one. Like it all comes down to this. We need to build you one.
You know what? We might need to when it comes out. So I don't know. I'm always
I
back and
almost convinced Cam. Like I was this close to convincing him to build a rig.
I know, I'm always back and forth on it. It's hard for me to justify. Like you saw I got my iPad and my iPad's like a couple $100 and I'm like hard it was hard for me even to justify the iPad purchase. But maybe one of these days I'll be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing it. I
You know, we
I
could
want a
even
sick
build,
rig to put on my desk and
yeah, we
like
could even build you like a $500 rig that would blow the socks off of your Xbox.
Xbox. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever price point you want, there's a build for that.
Yeah, true. That's the nice thing about PCs. And like over time you can upgrade one one part bit by bit. You don't have to like, Xbox consoles, PlayStation consoles, it's like full rig upgrade, full
Yeah,
system upgrade. Um, can't swap things in and out, unfortunately. I
right.
mean, for the most part. So
Except with these GPUs, I think I'm going to need to upgrade my CPU too. And I don't want to do that. Those are expensive.
yeah, that that can get
Not as
pricey.
much as a GPU, but
Still
still,
pricey.
yeah, when you have to buy a GPU and then you have to buy a CPU on top of that.
Yeah, pretty gnarly. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm really interested in like why Biden is throttling. I'm assuming because he doesn't want the technology in competitive countries' hands. But I think Nvidia was like pretty pissed about it. Their
Yeah,
stock dropped for it, I guess, apparently.
that would be why my whole portfolio dived, took a dive on Friday.
Freaking Biden, bro.
I know. I mean, he's a lame duck president anyway. Why is he doing stuff?
He's getting out. Like,
Yeah,
what are we doing here? I'm sure I'm sure it's due to like does not want other countries to have the technology. That's my assumption. Let's see. Chip export controls would curb the sale of artificial intelligence chips from US firms such as Nvidia to specific countries and companies. The rules, which are expected days before Biden leaves office, aim to support AI development among US allies and promote US standards globally. And
interesting.
let's see. Nvidia vice president said extreme country cap policy will affect mainstream computers in countries around the world, doing nothing to promote national security, but rather pushing the world to alternative technologies. Yeah, they're pretty pissed about it.
Yeah, I I bet so.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, wonder if we can get
lame,
that
but
reversed.
hopefully we can get some, or whoever needs one. Hopefully the listeners can get one before scalpers do and enjoy
Yeah,
it to the full
I
extent.
mean, that's the last thing we need is another pandemic GPU run where people can't get what they need.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So,
But I
all
mean,
right. Well, that's all I got for tonight.
yeah,
What
that's
about
all I
you?
got as well. So we want to thank everyone for staying tuned to our show and listening to what we have to say. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. That really does help out our channel. If you didn't like it, that other button seems to work all right too. Make sure you send this video to somebody you dislike. They could really use this in their life. As always, ringling that dingling button so you never miss out on any content as it's posted on the show. Until next time, stay classy and have a great evening.
Peace.